Hey, this is a channel timeless collective reading for you when you see it. I've got channel messages that came through ahead of time, and of course my spirit guides, the angels and source will bring through any additional information that's for your highest good as we roll through these. They were showing me rain as I started this reading. There was another reading I did recently, they started with rain as well. And it's kind of actually the same message. So your path is being cleared. I feel like it's collective right now for perhaps a lot of folk, especially if you're tuning into these sorts of messages with me on YouTube or maybe elsewhere as well, like on other platforms. But I feel like your path is about to be cleared in a big way, and like there could be some major obstacle removal or people that have been in your way moving out of your way. I almost just seen joy expansion, like things that were in the way of your joy leaving finally. And it might take a month. It might not take a month to play out, but it might take a little bit of time to play out, but it's happening is what I'm getting. So I'm almost getting to say, like, maybe revisit this reading in like a month and see what came true, or in like a couple months, or as you remember. And it would be a year at the latest is what I'd say. But the first message that came through for you ahead of time was crocodile. And they showed me the concept of crocodile tears. This is, you are moving away from falsity or anything false in your life. It's going to be much easier for you to see what's false and what's true. That skill is just becoming honed is what I'm getting. So maybe some of you are newer to the path or spirituality, intuition, and you're just starting to see through people a bit more and get like what's real and what isn't, which is an apt skill to have, and it will help you a lot in this journey is what I'd say. I feel like that's speaking from experience first and foremost, but it's also channeled. So because they told me to say that, speaking from experience, so it's both, I suppose. I'm also just getting this message, like there are a lot of people that aren't for you out there. Even if they seem to be flying your colors or speaking your language or saying the right things, sometimes that's not enough. And you need someone who's actually there or actually connected, actually is going to say what you need to hear, if that makes sense, whether it's friends or family or anyone, someone on a platform, doesn't matter. I feel like you need to find what's for you and not just what's handy, if that makes sense. Like, sometimes we have someone there and we're like, oh, this is handy. It's like a friend that we go to for advice or something, but sometimes that's not right for every situation, and we need to kind of seek out for their guidance, or maybe we need to go within and get our own guidance and intuition on something. But if there's been anything that's been consistently leading you in a false direction, it's time to move away from those things, or kind of question them or sit with them a bit longer and see, like, do I keep this around? Do I not here? And, that's just what I'm hearing right now, especially people close to you. And I'm not trying to separate you from people close to you or anything crazy like that. It's more just like something to consider, like, does a friend consistently lead you in the wrong direction when you go for advice? How does your life turn out every time you heed their advice? Things like that. Or maybe like you read a certain book and it gives you something to try in a specific situation and it doesn't go well. It's like, maybe stop listening to that book, like things like that. I have a story to tell actually that speaks to this point here. And I'll keep it a bit brief. But one time, this was like a long time ago, like 10 years ago. But I was in this relationship and I was reading these books on like experts, like about communication and about relationships and like nonviolent communication and all this stuff. And I took these like passages from some of these books and I like tried it out. And this was before I really got into this stuff more deeply. So it wasn't like at a point where I was just like, oh, I'm just going to see what my guides tell me to say, or I'm just going to go with what I'm intuitively guided to say. It wasn't like in that zone. I wasn't operating from that, I wasn't in that place yet to like consciously access those things and do that. But I would try these things in these books and it would just go awful. It would completely backfire and go awful. And then you'd look at like dating coaches or people like that for like going on dates or like meeting people, and it would just go like so much worse than when I was just being myself and doing what I felt called to do in the moment. So one of my big lessons was not everybody knows what they're talking about, and not everything is the right fit for you and your circumstances. And you know, I feel like it's different if you have someone who's actually connected, actually accurate, actually intuitive, actually, like doing the actual thing to help you. I feel like that's very different. But sometimes we can't just copy and paste what the experts, say to do in a book. And sometimes they might not even be the best experts to go to. They might have read it from a bunch of other books and they're just like, I'm going to put this into my own book and sell it. But like, they don't actually have knowledge and wisdom and expertise to really like, do what you're looking to do. And I might be going a little bit too far with what I'm saying. So, that last sentence or two, they're like, don't say that. But it's too late. It's out of my mouth. Hopefully the concept was helpful, at least to hear. And I'm bringing that up here because that's along the lines of what they're guiding me to say. Like they wanted me to tell that story for you guys. Like I remember it was a big lesson for me was being who I am and doing maybe I'm not spelling it out in the right ways. That is the part of it you need. So what is the part of it you need from all of this here? Don't listen to just anyone, hone your own truth is the phrase I'm hearing, and things like that. Whether it's your intuition or seeing what feels right to you and balancing your results with what people are saying and adjusting accordingly is what I'd say. So next here, they showed me a tower. They gave this message about like less tower moments happening. So you might be afraid of tower moments, but they are not going to happen. So there are going to be less tower moments for you. I feel like it's smooth sailing for a while for most of you. I feel like if you do maybe like the 20% of you that has something, it's not going to be that bad. It's very manageable. Do your best not to freak out is what I'm getting to say as well. But I just feel like things are going to be a bit easier for you. I feel like this is a time of less tower moments because we need to recover. Those are the words I'm hearing. That's the sentence I'm hearing. So if you're getting less tower moments, take that time to recover and move forward is what I'm hearing to say. Next, they showed me a cloud. So to balance that out, they also said don't overwork yourself. Make sure you are not overworking yourself at all and make sure you are approaching life in a balanced way. Work hard if you have to, of course, but do your best to balance it. So, sometimes we just bite off way more than we can chew, or we think we can handle something for years and years and years and years, like a certain pace, but we need to break it up a little bit, or, cut it into smaller sizes to tackle it, or chew your food metaphorically, but it's actually life that you're tackling, of course. So if you need a break, just take a break. Try not to bite off more than you can chew right now, but I would still try to do enough. You understand you understand trying to find that balance, hopefully, or what I'm getting to. So we'll move on to the next part, because they also showed fluff, and they said you are going to be seeing through the fluff and just incorporating what works for you. So completely different side, but kind of in tune with what we were saying before. Like sometimes we buy a course or a book and there's just like all this fluff, and it's just the author is talking about 20 different things that don't matter, but then like there's like one golden nuggets or one little like exercise or something that's really helpful for you. And they're just like, okay, you don't need to buy all that fluff, but you can take what works and just let go of the rest and move forward. And I would be doing that with everything. And my intention is just to be completely free from fluff to the best of my ability and be completely clear of it and just bring through what's for the highest good for me to bring through. So hopefully I'm never fluffy, but let's move on here. I mean, I'll just do my best. Next, they showed me a mirror and they said you are going to be seeing through illusion. I think we already talked about this, but you are going to be seeing through illusion, especially regarding other people. There's a lot of illusion that's going to be falling away soon. So if you've been dealing with a lot of illusions or illusions from people or people in your life, smoke and mirrors, I feel like that's going to be falling. We are in a time period of greater light in general, and that's going to keep arising on the planet and your personal worlds, especially if you're doing the work, working on yourself, and you can invite the light in. I feel like it's inevitable that it gets in anyways, though. I feel like in some ways it's almost not a choice, like to ascend or to have more like lights in your life, if you're just walking your path. That all being said here, the reason I'm bringing that up is because as more light kind of hits, I feel like illusion falls away anyways. We are kind of in a time period, or we are in a time period of like truth and greater truth rising, which could potentially coincide with more lights, etheric lights, and things like that hitting the planet, hitting our personal lives. So as we rise in vibration, truth is all that can remain after a certain point, because lies are not at a vibration that's high enough to, be sustained. And same with illusions. So there are just going to be a lot of illusions falling away in your personal world, metaphysically, even a lot of people being unveiled. Not a bad thing. I think the truth is what we need, and it's going to steer things in the proper directions, of course. So I would always recommend not hiding away from the truth or not trying to keep it at bay from ourselves, but inviting it in and embracing it, because it's going to lead to better things overall once things adjust. So keep that in mind as well. Next, they just showed a fighter jet, which has been a common thing showing up for some reason for these YouTube readings. They just said, and they gave the phrase overcoming the odds. So they just said when something is destined, it doesn't matter what the odds are. When you are working with the infinite, odds mean nothing. What is meant to be, that is what matters. So if something's meant to be, it's going to happen. Doesn't matter the odds. Don't worry about the odds is what I'd say with something. And I'm also getting like you can manifest anything. There might be a small caveat with like a within reason. And like if it's for the highest good. I feel like the universe will actually, not just typically, but will thwart things that are not for the highest good when someone tries to manifest them overly much, or maybe it'll let a little bit of it happen to let people see the consequences and like why that's not for the highest good, and then it will correct things. But for some reason I'm getting to say this, like trying to go against source is just not a great idea. It doesn't end well. It gets course corrected very hard, and people just trying to go against the infinite is a bad idea. It just doesn't work. So I don't know why I'm saying this, but all that to say is like if someone's trying to stop your destiny, they can't. If someone's trying to keep you from succeeding in a way that's aligned from source, that's like meant to be, it can't happen. It can't be stopped is what I'd say. Like the people trying to stop that happening can be stopped, are stopped. But that success in alignment with source can't be stopped or aligned with the light. So I feel like some of you are afraid of certain things being stopped that are important to you, and they won't be. So keep that in mind for others of you. There's something you're manifesting and you don't think it's going to happen, but it will, or eventually it'll happen or come true, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what I'm getting with that one. They're also showing me a tank, like a military vehicle tank here. I'm just getting the message you can overcome anything. So like some of you think you can't be successful, or certain dreams can't happen, or there's nothing you can do to make your life better. It's almost like a little bit defeatist is what I'm getting. And that's just not true is what I'm getting for you. That's not really a good mindset to be in either. So try for some of you to find the positives in your situation and see where things are working out for you, or see what the universe or source is doing for you through some of the circumstances that seem a bit defeatist or even like hard. And I get it. I get it when it can seem or be difficult with those things. Like I understand the frustration, or it seems like things aren't going your way or whatever. But I would hold fast because source has a plan, and I feel like you can overcome it and be successful. And a lot of you are meant to, and beyond all of that here, seeing yourself as defeated is not going to help you win. So try to rise out of that mindset. If you can, work on yourself regarding that, even if it's in small ways, or just taking the next best step you can to overcome that, things will work out is what I'd say. If you keep working on it. And again, like don't think about the odds, think about what's possible and what you can do with source in your corner. And if you're working for the light, source is in your corner, true highest and most definite source. Next, they showed me orange juice, and they showed this orange juice like toppled over, and like it was like a carton of orange juice toppled over and like spilling. It was like the orange juice was spilled, and the message was like you're getting rejuiced, especially if you felt drained. It's not about like juicing in sort of any sort of like illegal way or anything like that. It's more like getting your batteries refilled, if that makes sense. So I feel like if you've been drained recently, there's a reason you'll be refilled soon, which is good. You'll be topped off for the highest good. Next, they gave the phrase higher calling. It said, heed the higher calling when it shows up, whether it's already showed up or will show up soon. You'll know it when you see it, especially if it, and this is especially like work related. They also said sometimes it takes a while for these things to show up, but when they do, jump on them. So Sometimes you have to go through a journey of a couple of years before the right thing shows up, or you have to learn this thing and this thing and this thing over here before you're ready for this next thing that you're really supposed to do. And you kind of have to go on the journey. And I know sometimes we want it right now. We want the thing now. We want the business now. We want the $1 million now. We want to change the world now. And I totally understand, and I get that. And at the same time, sometimes you're not ready. And then like at the right time when these things do happen, or when you do get to the place where you're doing what you're meant to do, you're like, oh, I see. Typically you're like, I see why all that happened to prepare me for this. Or, oh, I see how I wasn't ready for this back like 3 years ago when I wanted it initially, or things like that. Or how I was more prepared for it now than I was 5 years ago or whatever. So I actually feel though a lot of you have a higher calling coming in soon. So whenever you see this next step towards your higher calling, or maybe, it exactly showing up, I would definitely take it. It's the right move. And you'll know, because you'll feel called to it very strongly. Like, oh, I need to do this. Or, oh, this is for me. This is for me. It's going to be very strong. So when you feel a strong calling to a higher calling, I would take it. They're showing me a centipede next, which can mean good luck, is one of the meanings of centipede. I'm also getting this weird message, centipedes have a lot of parts to them. I think they have a lot of segments, or they just have a long body. I don't know, but they have a lot of different legs, which I guess you could argue are segments of them maybe. And the message is, there are a lot of parts to you, your path or your story, or what you're living, and they're saying not to neglect any of them. And what does that mean? Centipedes don't just crawl around with their front 2 legs and try to use that as their only way to move. They use every part of themselves to move and to scurry along, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of and I don't what's the best way to say this? There are many aspects to you that are necessary for you to function as you and be you. And neglecting even the small aspects, or the parts of you or the aspects of you think don't belong, or the aspects of the story you don't like necessarily, isn't always the way to move forward. We can't always just pretend something's not there and try to move forward. If you have a grudge against someone, or if you have a hobby that you really love, you can't, I don't know who needs to hear this that's watching this. I don't think it's going to be all of you, but maybe it's for all of you to some degree. I don't know, I'm getting a weird message. You can't always just neglect a part of yourself and then be yeah, everything's going to work out perfectly fine, or something like that. So if there's a part of you you've been neglecting, or a hobby, or maybe it's even just a chore you need to do or get accomplished in your life, or maybe it's a part of you or an aspect of you you love, but you've forgotten about. What's the best way to say this? Or maybe there are just some parts of you that need some love right now, if that makes sense. If this makes any sense to you, don't try to neglect parts of you and then try to move forward. Try to bring all of you forward and love yourself equally and transform through that, instead of trying to pretend something's not there, or neglecting something that's really important to you, or a part of yourself that's really important to you, if that makes any sense. Maybe you're intellectual and you need intellectual stimulation, but you're trying to ignore that because your boyfriend is dumb or something like that. Maybe you just need friends that are intellectual to balance that out, and you just get that intellectual stimulation from other people. But you can't just dumb yourself down for your boyfriend or your girlfriend or partner or whoever. And expect things to just be okay. You can't just shut yourself down and pretend it's not there and try to move forward. It's not going to work for you. That's probably a better way I could say all that. Hopefully that makes sense here. Or I don't know, maybe you love tennis, and you meet someone romantically who hates tennis, and so you try to hide this tennis part of you, but it's a calling in your soul to play tennis, and it helps you realize things about life or something like that. It's just go play tennis and let them cope. You don't need to hide that you play tennis or that this thing is important to you. And it doesn't make sense to divorce yourself from you for others, because then you're just losing yourself for nothing. And if they can't hold space for all of you, maybe they're either not the right person, or maybe they can learn to, if you decide to not divorce yourself from yourself, if that makes any sense with this message. And I know that's like a long tangent that they're having me go on with this message, but some of you need it, and all of you, it would be good to keep in mind is what I'm hearing. So the last message I had ahead of time, they showed me a dust storm, and they're also starting to play Sandstorm by, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's like Darude or Darude, D-A-R-U-D-E. They're starting to play that as I read this, which is like the really popular electronic song that they play at like every single school dance ever, from like kindergarten to college. But anyways, they just said, even if the rest of the collective is mired in like dust or is like not seeing things clearly, it doesn't mean you have to be having those same issues. You can have clarity no matter what anyone else is going through. I think like sometimes I'm getting a weird message of like, maybe there are people out there who are going like, oh, I can't see, maybe someone is saying that they can't see. What's the best way to say this? Like maybe someone is saying they're having a trouble seeing clearly, and then they're like, no one can, but like, that's not necessarily true. So even if there's like a collective, what's the best way to say this here? Just because someone's having trouble or having an issue doesn't mean you have to have that issue. It doesn't mean like we're all in this together. We all have to have the same issues at the same time or anything like that here. And it's like not really a healthy way to go. So I don't know. I'm getting a weird message. Like some of you might have people around you that are trying to convince you have to have an issue because they do with something, whether it's regarding intuition, or it's regarding love, or it's regarding friendship or something like that. But it's not necessarily true. So don't buy into it. Like it's possible to, I'm trying to find the best way to say this, but because there's like different meanings in some of these words and the semantics that could be like misconstrued from what I'm actually trying to bring through with this one. Because you can, in a way, not like separate yourself from the collective, but you can, in a way, like not separate, but like stand back and not have all the collective issues. Or you might have someone trying to convince you have to have collective issues with everyone else, but you don't. Like you can kind of be above and beyond, or at a different level where it's not impacting you the same way. So try not to take on collective issues as your own if you don't have to, is what I'd say. And like, yes, we're all interconnected. It's all intertwined and interwoven. In a way, you could say it's all that, but it doesn't mean everyone else's problems have to be yours, is what I'd say with that. Very strange message, but hopefully that makes sense. Okay, we're going to close that. They are showing me an owl, like a barn owl, as I go to close out this reading. And this barn owl is like saying to me, it's like perching up on a branch. It's flying around, perches on a branch, and it's trying to say something to me. So give me a second to see what the barn owl would like to say here. So interestingly enough, the last message I have for you, this barn owl lands on a branch and he says, you have a big task coming. So it could be like a task in your personal world, or maybe like your boss at work gives you a big task, or maybe it's a task like the universe or source is giving you to bring healing to a group of people or to the collective or something like that. So it could be part of that higher calling that just came in as well. So I feel like you'll know what this is. It's going to be very obvious, and it's not like I'm trying to pawn this off on you or anything like that. It's like something you actually incarnated to do. So sometime in the near future, you might have some type of big task that the source, God, your angels, your spirit guides, the universe gives you for the highest good, to kind of tackle or like help people with. It's not really a cross to bear or anything like that. They're showing Jesus dragging a cross, and they're saying it's not a cross to bear. You might even enjoy doing it because it could be part of your wiring of things you're called to handle or do here, if that makes sense. But like once source gives you like a task to do, for those of you intuitive, plugged in, getting those sorts of messages, it'd be probably very good to heed that and do that, because there will be rewards and it will be a blessed path is what I'm getting. So if that makes any sense to you. I'm going to close the reading there. I feel like you're all on the right track for the most part. And some of you, if you don't feel like you're on the right track, totally, it's being refined. So don't worry. And I'm wishing you well. Hope this was helpful. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok, or you can check out my website and things like that if you want to stay in touch. And I hope you have a great rest of your day or evening, and I will see you on another post.